Have you ever held a thermometer like it's a crystal ball, desperately hoping it'll tell you everything's fine? Spoiler alert, it won't, but I kinda can. I'm Dr. Mona Amin, a board-certified pediatrician and mom, and on today's video we're taking a step-by-step look at to what I do when my kids have a fever. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button so you do not miss out on any videos that help you navigate your child's health, development, and behavior with confidence. Let's get to it. First things first, a fever is anything over 100.4 Fahrenheit or 38 degrees Celsius. It's your child's body fighting off infection or inflammation like a tiny superhero. And no, 99 degrees Fahrenheit is not a fever. I repeat, not a fever. Sure, it can be an elevated temperature, but the definition of fever is still 100.4 Fahrenheit or 38 degrees Celsius. Repeat it with me. 100.4, 38, not 99. For kids under 8 weeks of age, any fever is a big deal, like get to the doctor ASAP kind of deal. For older kids, I start getting concerned if fevers last longer than 5 days or other conditions are occurring. For further information on all things fever, check out my YouTube video on fevers, which is actually one of my most watched videos. In this video, I'm telling you how I manage fevers in my kids step by step. Step 1, when do I check for a fever? I check for a fever if my child is cranky or irritable, or feeling warmer than a toaster oven. Tactile temperature, which is using your hand to feel for warmth, is fine for a quick hunch, but don't rely on it alone. Kids are like space heaters. They can feel warm just from running around like crazy. I always confirm with an actual thermometer, and I recommend you doing the same. I also check if I know they've been sick, especially when I've been monitoring fevers all along or right before nap or bedtime. Even if they're acting fine and seem comfortable, I use this to track their fever pattern, how often they're spiking, and I may give medication to help them sleep more comfortably if needed. When my kids were under 3 months of age, I usually just checked their fever if they were cranky or fussier than usual, which happened a lot because they're newborns. Thankfully, neither of them had fevers this young. A common question: what if my kid feels warm but is running around like they drink a double shot of espresso? Relax. If they're eating, drinking, and playing normally, you don't need to jump into thermometer mode. Often a warm child without other symptoms doesn't need an immediate fever check because you're not going to manage it. The only exception for me is before nap or bedtime. At those times, I'll check their temperature and consider giving medication to help them sleep comfortably, which is my personal choice. Also of note, children who are prone to febrile seizures may have caregivers who check fevers more regularly, but more about febrile seizures are in this video. In general, it's key to treat symptoms and not numbers, so avoid over-checking the temps and bothering yourself or them. Step 2, how do I take a temperature? $1 million question. Once I've decided it's time to check my child's temperature, the next step is taking it in the correct way. For babies and toddlers under 2, I always go with a rectal temp. It's the most accurate way to check their temperature because it measures their core temperature. I know it can feel a little tricky, but it's definitely the gold standard for little ones. To check it, you turn on the thermometer and wait for the signal to insert it. You put some Vaseline or Aquaphor at the tip and go into the anus a little past the silver line, but the digital thermometer will start registering. You wait for it to start registering, you don't move any further, and you'll have your number. Once they're over 2 years of age, I switch to an ear thermometer. It's super quick and easy. You just pop it in their ear and get a reading in seconds. My personal favorite is the Braun ear thermometer, but there are so many to choose from. As my children get older, I will switch to taking their temperature under the tongue, like I would, which is oral. A standard digital thermometer like this one is great, and you can buy covers and wash it for hygiene. I still have a separate one for rectal and oral and write a little R, so we avoid confusing thermometers even if it's clean. Temporal or forehead thermometers and underarm, axillary readings can be useful for a quick check, but are generally less precise. Some common questions. What if my child won't sit still long enough to take their temperature? Welcome to the circus of parenting. For babies and toddlers, taking a rectal temperature can feel like wrestling a wiggly alligator. My go-to tricks: distract them with their favorite toy, make goofy faces, or start singing The Wheels on the Bus like it's a Grammy-worthy performance. For older kids, you can do the same, but you can ditch the wrestling match altogether and go for an ear or forehead thermometer. They're quicker, less invasive, and won't turn you into a contortionist. Sure, they might not be as precise, but sometimes you just need a quick read and a little peace. The real key? Stay calm while you're doing it. If you're chill, they're more likely to roll with it or at least slightly less likely to escape mid-check. Parenting is all about teamwork, even when it's thermometer time. Another common statement: I swear 5 different thermometers give 5 different readings. What's best? Stick to your favorite thermometer and trusted brand, and please don't lose sleep trying to justify a tactile temperature. I swear they feel like they're 101.5. At the end of the day, the number isn't the star of the show. It's how your child is acting. Are they eating and drinking? Are they sleeping okay? Are they still finding the energy to argue about which cup is the best cup? Then don't stress. The number on the thermometer won't matter as much as what's right in front of you, their behavior. For newborns and infants, rectal temps are the way to go. For older kids, I'm not sweating the difference between 102 and 103. What does matter is if they're listless, cranky, or just not themselves. If something feels off, trust your gut and give your clinician a call. Sometimes parenting is more about vibes than numbers, and that's totally okay. Another question is, do I need to add or subtract numbers for temperatures? I keep it simple. No need for crazy fever math. Some people might say to add a degree for underarm temps, but honestly, who has time for that, or who's going to remember that? Skip the calculations and focus on how your child is acting. If they're old enough to avoid rectal temps, so let's say they're older than 2 or they're a toddler, over the age of 1 and not a newborn, you're already in the clear for taking a more laid-back approach and looking at behavior. Are they cranky, uncomfortable, or struggling to sleep? That's your cue. And hey, if this stress-free real talk parenting advice is hitting the spot, don't forget to hit that button and subscribe. It helps me keep making content that keeps you calm and confident in your parenting journey. Okay, let's keep it simple and let's keep it moving. Another common question: do you need to recheck a high temp? If it was elevated, meaning over 100.4 Fahrenheit, you can remove all clothing and let them cool off naturally and check again. But if it's still a fever, I would take it as a fever. The next step in my step-to-step approach of managing fever is deciding on medication. When it comes to fever, parents often wonder whether to give fever-reducing medication. While fever itself isn't always the issue, it can make kids very uncomfortable, so medication can help them feel better. When do I give fever medicine as a pediatrician and mom? If my child is cranky, uncomfortable, or struggling to sleep, that's when I consider giving medication to bring the fever down. For my kids, I usually lean towards Motrin or ibuprofen first if they're over 6 months. Ibuprofen not only reduces fever, but also helps with inflammation and pain, like from teething, ear infections, or sore throats. And given with fever comes inflammation, it's my preferred. It also lasts longer. When it comes to medication, I also follow the golden rule, which is following the dosage instruction based on your child's weight. No guessing, no eyeballing, no, that looks about right. If you're unsure, double check with your healthcare provider. It's always better to ask than to wing it. As a pediatrician, I calculate doses based on my kids' most recent weight because, of course, they're growing like weeds. If you want a step-by-step on how to figure this out, or just want some extra peace of mind on medications, check out my video on dosing and medication safety. Keeping it simple and safe is the name of the game. Some common questions I get asked. Do you alternate meds? Let's clear up the confusion around alternating fever meds. You do not need to wake up a peacefully sleeping child to give a medication because they're due for alternating. Sleep is sacred for them and for you. Here's how I approach alternating. Take notes. Stick with your go-to medication. Mine is usually ibuprofen in this example, which lasts about 6 hours. Let's say you give it at 1 p.m. If by 5 p.m. they're still feverish and cranky, but it's too soon for another dose of ibuprofen because you can only give that every 6 hours, you can give acetaminophen. After that, keep track of what you've given and when, alternating only as needed for comfort. But you may find you may not need to alternate because your kid may not need medicine because you're treating symptoms, not numbers. This really helps manage symptoms without risking over-medication. For my kids, I lean on medication for comfort when they're truly irritable or struggling. If they're feverish but acting fine, I hold off. However, like I mentioned, if it's nap or bedtime and I know they'll sleep better with meds, which they do, I'll go ahead and give it. It's a personal choice, not a must. And remember, non-medicated comfort like fluids, snuggles, and rest is just as powerful as the meds themselves. Another question, what if they wake up in the middle of the night with the illness and they don't have a fever, but they're crying? Should I medicate? Great question. If your child wakes up uncomfortable in the middle of the night and you've been treating an illness, it's likely they're feeling some discomfort. Use your parental spidey senses here. If cuddles, hydration, or other comfort measures don't seem to help, it's okay to reach for a fever-reducing medication if they're due for it. These meds aren't just for fever, they actually help with pain too, and let's face it, being sick can hurt. Just be sure to keep track of when you gave the last medication and stick to the proper spacing. Comforting your little one while keeping things safe and simple is the goal because a calm, rested parent is part of the recovery plan too, as long as them being rested as well. If they wake up with a fever after being sick, you can check their temperature or give them medication if they're due for a dose. Waking up likely means they're uncomfortable, so addressing their symptoms can help them settle back to sleep. The key takeaway here: medication should be used for comfort, not just to bring down the number on the thermometer. Always assess whether it's really needed and follow the recommended dosing intervals to avoid over-medicating. Step 4, the non-medicated comfort measures that we use. When my kids have a fever, it's tough to see them uncomfortable, but small, simple things make a big difference even before you reach for the medication. Here's my go-to strategy. Fluids are your BFF. Little sips of water, breast milk if they're breastfeeding, or formula if they're formula feeding add up. If they're vomiting, I throw in electrolyte solution. See my dehydration video for more. Hydration is key, especially in a fever, because they lose fluids via sweating from that fever. Cool washcloths. We have occasionally used this to cool off our kids, but we have found that meds work even better as long as used as needed for comfort. Don't stress about food. Sick kids lose their appetite. It's normal. I offer hydrating snacks like watermelon, cucumbers, offer meals and snacks with protein as well to keep their energy. But I don't panic if they skip a meal or if they eat very little bit. And I do focus on hydration. I stick to lukewarm baths. Avoid cold baths as this can cause confusion for their internal thermostat that can lead to more shivering. And very important, I've said it already, sleep is essential. Rest is best. Extra naps or longer sleep, bring it on. I've let go of worrying about strict schedules. Extra sleep is what their body needs right now. If they're finally sleeping peacefully, I don't wake them up to just stick to a routine or to give them meds or check a temperature. Sleep is how they recover. So I let them rest as long as they need. And only check temperatures in the middle of the night if they wake up. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I go solely by tactile temp and medicate. My thought, they woke up and are irritable. So even if they have a fever or not, I'm going to give them medication to get them more comfortable. And so I don't want to reach for the thermometer if I don't have to. And of course, other comfort measures, extra TLC, whether it's chest naps, rocking, or cuddles, I lean into what they need to feel safe and comforted. If you have an independent sleeper, know they may need more assistance to fall asleep when sick. If your child isn't an independent sleeper, they will also need more TLC. The bottom line, keep it simple, cozy, and low stress for everyone. You've got this. So now, as a pediatrician and mom, when do I hit the time to get this check button? I'm lucky to have the pediatrician perk of checking ears and lungs at home, but here's when I'd investigate beyond just a virus or a fever caused by a virus. If the fever won't budge and they're irritable despite fever-reducing meds, I do comfort measures, give medication for a fever, and they're still irritable or cranky after an hour with a fever that won't budge, I'd be fishing for something else, maybe an ear exam or a lung exam. If their behavior is off with a fever that isn't budging or just off in general, like if they're too tired to engage, they're having difficulty walking or limping or inconsolable crying. If the fever persists, if a fever lasts more than 5 days and my child is still irritable or not showing signs of improvement, I start to pay even closer attention. While some viruses can cause fevers for over 10 days, what concerns me most is how the fever is trending. If the fever isn't improving, meaning they're spiking frequently or even more often than before, I'd have them evaluated. In cases like this, I'd likely consider blood work to get a better understanding of what's going on. If I see signs of dehydration, dry mouth, no tears, or fewer wet diapers, that's my cue to step in. And check out my YouTube video on dehydration for more tips. If breathing looks off, if they're working harder to breathe or sounding like a raspy saxophone looking at you, croup, and steam or cold air isn't helping, it's time for an evaluation. If they're tugging their ears. So tugging alone can mean congestion or teething, but fever plus ear pain and meds that are not helping with that ear pain can mean an ear infection. Not always, but it can. And yes, I get to sneak and check this myself. This is a pediatrician perk. If they were to have a seizure. Seeing a seizure can be scary, and I know febrile seizures can happen with some high fevers. I've actually done a video on febrile seizures, and I highly suggest you watch it because not all high fevers cause febrile seizure, and it's important to know this distinction. Remember, if you're unsure about something like croup, dehydration, or febrile seizures, I have videos that dive deeper into those topics to help you feel prepared. And subscribe for more videos coming your way. Bottom line, remember, treat the child, not the number. Your thermometer isn't a crystal ball, and you don't need the fanciest one on the market to make good decisions, even if you didn't have a thermometer at all. Gasp. Trust your gut. Look at your child. Are they acting okay, or do they seem off? That's your guide. If something doesn't feel right, don't overthink it. It's 100% okay to ask for help. Your healthcare provider is there to support you, not judge you. Your peace of mind matters, and it's always better to check in if you're unsure. Parenting isn't about perfection. It's about trusting yourself and knowing when to call in the pros. I hope you love this updated fever video on what I do when I approach fevers in my children, but what did I miss? What questions do you have? Comment below, and if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up sign, double thumbs up sign, share it, and subscribe for more content tailored to help you understand your child's health, development, and behavior with confidence. I hope I brought more confidence into your parenting journey. Stay informed, stay empowered, and I'll see you all next time. Stay well.